What's up, fam? It's Keen Dog. We're in Star Spangled Gamblers Quarantine HQ, and in case you can't tell, it's a little bit weird. Anyway, before this week's episode, I just want to put out a call to all the boys to get these things done. We got to pay WordPress for server space. We got to pay Libsyn for the podcast, Upwork for editing, MailChimp to manage all the communication between them. So if you can, if we're giving you tips that are making you money, if you're excited by this content, if you're having as much fun as we are making it, check out www.starspangledgamblers.com/support. That's our homepage /support. It's right there when you get there. And see if you can lend us your talents or a tip or throw us a few bucks to help this process keep going. We're going to keep churning out content. It's going to be great, and we want to do it with you. Anyway, let's check out this week's episode.
Welcome back to Star Spangled Gamblers. I'm Keen Dog. I'm your host. It's Mailbag Monday. And if you've been hanging out with us the past couple weeks, you know who I'm about to introduce next. Zoltar, show those shades off.
What up? Oh, let's make some money, boys.
Woo! A little nose candy to get the week started.
It's boom, boom. Not nose candy.
Boom, boom. Definitely sold outside the 7-Eleven.
What up, Pratik?
Hey. Pratik, you got anything? You stuffing anything up your nose to find some genius today?
Maybe coronavirus because I traveled to New York and back, among other things. But
how was that?
No.
How are the airports?
Actually, it was kind of odd. Like Boston Logan was totally empty, but then when I got to Charlotte, it was like any other time. It was completely packed, and O'Hare was kind of in between. So I don't know. I think people
like in the terminals, just like desert sand people with paper, plastic bags and goggles all over themselves.
Well, so everyone had to wear a mask. They don't even let you really in the airport anymore. But like people were pretty calm. I mean, there was basically no social distancing, and like on the plane, you know, all the rows were completely full.
So you had multiple people per row?
Yeah. So, you know, obviously I think the people traveling are mostly those like me who basically don't care, but I think we're definitely returning to normal.
You think Ronies are fake?
Kind of, yeah.
Huh. What do you think's happening in Italy?
Too much pasta.
I mean, look, it's obviously not fake, but it is fake in the sense that it shouldn't be this catastrophic event that shuts down the global economy. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that it's highly disproportionately targeting a small percentage of the population.
Old folks.
And people with all kinds of conditions. I mean, I saw a headline the other day that like people in Washington state who had gunshot wounds and also had coronavirus are being counted as COVID-19 deaths in their official count. So I don't know. I'm like kind of reaching the point where I don't really trust the narrative.
I think it's like in March, it was like the scene in Saving Private Ryan where like the gate goes down on the boats and everyone just gets blown up and people are like, oh fuck, we gotta hide behind this shitty field obstacle. And not just get slaughtered by the plague. And like now we've realized that that's not the situation anymore. And like, you know, we're going to start building a beachhead. I think there's traffic in LA again. You know, people are out on the street drinking beer. It's like the public is clearly moving on some level.
Well, I can tell you what's going to definitely happen in the news media. Once they start opening up again, more people are going to get it and they're going to blame Trump. Oh, look at this. Another 1,000 people got it in X state. Fuck you, Trump. That's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I definitely felt like this week, I mean, this is like a political prediction news show and not a griping news show. Like there was like no news this week. I feel like this was a week where like old news was just sold as new news. Like people were like, oh my God, Amy Klobuchar is being vetted for vice president. Like no fucking shit, she's being vetted as vice president. Like,
well, that's one of the only bets that all three of us have gone in on, right?
Yeah, that was a nice little payday.
I'm maxed out. You guys maxed out on that one? How deep are you in?
No, I'm flipped. I flip those. I'll just buy like 500 shares here, you know, flip them at the end of the week, buy another. Like I'm just trying to make, you know, $50 a week just going.
But like I got her at like 22 cents and it hasn't really got, I think now it's back to 22 cents.
Yeah.
What, so you got her at like 18, something like that and been flipping?
I'm buying at 21 and selling at 25 every time.
What What about you, Pratik? You all in on this one? How deep are you?
Well, I pretty much sold off everything I had when it reached like 24, 25. So I'm now looking to get back in. But I think the lowest I had bought her was like 17, maybe even, I think that was the lowest. It made sense to flip at that time. But
let me ask you this. What do you think about Biden's most recent gaffe, how that affects the VP pick, if at all?
Oh, I mean, I think
the gaffe, for those who are not following the news.
That's not news. That's also fake news. So Biden.
You don't think it's news that he says you ain't black?
It's totally fake news. The only people who
that's
care
one of his
about
best
that,
gaffes so far, I think.
The only people who care about like Joe Biden saying something awkward, people like Joe Biden because he's rough around the edges and says stupid shit. Like the only people who are going to care about that in November are one, Trump's campaign team, because they think they can peel off enough black voters that he can win Michigan and Pennsylvania again. And two, people who are paid to care about it because like they create outrage clickbait. Like I think people would be entertained.
I think that was a pretty bad statement. I think that deserves some outrage.
I mean, Al Sharpton,
especially because of the 8. The 8 is even makes it 10 times worse.
Al Sharpton went on MSNBC, and Charlemagne the God, who was the one Biden said that to, retweeted Al Sharpton on MSNBC, basically like praising Joe Biden and saying like, yeah, that was kind of an awkward statement, but like Joe Biden's done so much for black people. He's Jesus, basically.
Yeah, so but we're just talking about the statement right now. And I agree. The statement is awful. You're not black if you don't vote for him. Come on.
It's stupid, but I don't think people are going to care. What other fake news did we have this week? Joe Biden's still awkward. We already knew that. Coronavirus is still around.
A lot of coronavirus. Does anyone else just fast forward the news when it's on coronavirus stuff?
No, I just don't watch it.
I'm over it. I don't pay attention to the numbers. I don't give a shit. I just fast forward.
COVID. I just don't watch it.
Next.
It's all fake. We actually had this Mailbag Monday. On Mailbag Monday, we're supposed to take your questions. We actually had some questions about that. A number of them about Val Demmings, who's a hitherto kind of unknown Congresswoman, ex-chief of police in Florida, who's sort of creeping up the VP list. So we had some questions. Val Demmings at 6%, hold or sell more. Then we had some when she hit 10, hold my Val Demmings at 10% or
buy nose. I say buy nose on everyone. When they hit the narrative, when they start getting promoted, just buy a bunch of nose. She's one of about 7 people that are going to make the news feed for people he's considering. It's all just publicity.
PJ, on its head, Pratik, does like a third-term congresswoman from Florida stand a chance of being anyone's vice president?
No, I mean, I'm actually astonished. Like, I would say that I've lost a lot of opportunities by assuming that the markets are way more rational than they are. I mean, for one thing, right now, I didn't count it, but I think the markets are well over 100% in terms of just the odds if you count up all the candidates. But
I think they've gone as high as like 114.
Yeah.
And they keep adding them. They keep adding new candidates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the idea that Val Demmings is even remotely under consideration for VP, I think just betrays in the market like such an astonishing degree of lack of seriousness on Biden's part. I mean, I think Biden's an idiot. I think he's a buffoon. I don't hold him in particularly high regard. But this is
like our right-wing episode, just slinging coronavirus conspiracy theories and calling him a fucking zombie.
No, but like
he's pretty bad.
The idea that the guy knows how old he is, he's already been the VP. He knows that he may be picking the next president. I have to think that he regards his choice with more seriousness than Val Demmings.
So I was like I was doing some back of the napkin math because like on one hand I get why predicted traders are putting in news media, people are putting such a premium on like race and identity and just who his choice is going to be. But I think there might be like a 5 or 10 cent premium because I don't think we're real hot on Amy Klobuchar on this pod, but like realistically, she probably has about the same odds as Kamala Harris. And yet she trades consistently.
So.
Okay.
I think she's better.
So do I. But realistically, like I feel like she's trading with at least a 10 cent premium. I think Val Demmings is trading with at least a 10 cent premium. Like I just don't think that these are realistic candidates, and people are way overpaying for the race card.
Well, if I may, your blog post I think was really good. The one you just did this week on Club. I think that's exactly how you should play this market. If you guys haven't read that, hit that one up on Star Spangled Gamblers.
Yeah, there's a trading window for all of these candidates. If you look at them, like you go to that candle chart, boom, 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 and you can like they all consistently trade in the same range. So if you just set those buys and set those sells, it's like fucking playing Madden on easy.
Yep.
So can I throw out a provocative question here?
Please provoke me.
Does Joe Biden actually want an African American woman to be president? And what I'm getting at here is that a lot of people after the latest gaffe on Twitter pointed out correctly that Biden has a pretty long record, not only of racially insensitive comments, but I wouldn't say that his track record is exactly a paragon of civil rights.
Yeah, don't forget that's what Kamala was torturing him on during the debates.
So there's like, okay, I feel like there's like two types of racism, right? There's like one type where you like spit on people and think they're worse than you, and like that's how you behave in life. And then there's like another kind where it's just like you expect less of people because they look different, and it would never cross your mind that people would have like the aptitude and ambition you have. And someone like Joe Biden, someone generically like Joe Biden, like definitely could be captive to the second one, you know, like, oh, that's cute, Val Demmings. Like, you'll make a great county board commissioner one day. I'm going to go pick Amy Klobuchar or Kirsten Gillibrand to be my running mate because they look like one, you know?
I mean, this is a guy, he was never out in front on civil rights as a senator. In many ways,
he's got connections to Byrd, that guy who was in the KKK. There's pictures of him like holding his hand and hugging him and all sorts of nonsense.
Well, Robert Byrd's a fucking weird thing in the Senate. I mean, like so many senators respect him as a professional and then run from him as a person with a record on race. Sorry, Pratik, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, even if you judge him by the standards of his own time, which I think is a perfectly reasonable benchmark, I mean, there were any number of his contemporaries and colleagues with facing similar political dynamics who were far more progressive on race before he was. And, you know, even if you say, okay, he was a little bit late to the game, I mean, this is a guy who, like, in the run-up to being vetted to be Obama's VP, he called Obama something like, you know, bright and fresh and clean.
Articulate. He said he was an articulate.
Like Skip Bayless talking about a black football player. Like, oh, he's so well-spoken.
Yeah, he's got some bad moments.
But like, back to the point here. So, Val Demmings trading up around 12% per share. Kamala Harris over 30%. I think Tammy Duckworth maybe trading a little low, down at 4%. But stumps. Zoltar has arrived, folks. But my sense is that people are way overpaying for most of these candidates, and if they're holding them, they should sell them. Except for maybe Tammy Duckworth. I don't. Am I crazy?
Well, don't forget you can always double check these odds with the European sports books.
Yeah.
And I think they have Klob and Kamala at like 15, 20 cents, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of reasonable.
So I guess on that note, we did get a question in the mailbag asking whether or not we should take it to the bank that Biden will even pick a woman at all.
Oh, I think he 100% is going to pick a woman, because if he doesn't at this point, they're going to open the floodgates.
Yeah.
He committed. He can't take that back.
Well, so I think the question, though, is, do you regard it as a 100% guarantee, or is it even a 99 or 98? Because if you think it's anything less than 100, you may want to get 1%.
I think that market's still trading in the 80s. Will the Democratic vice president be a woman? There was a period of time where I thought the coronavirus might be bad enough that he'd pick like someone with a good disaster management record if Cuomo or Newsom or someone was a star. But at this point, I see no realistic situation where he doesn't pick a woman. Well,
unless they get rid of him and replace him.
Oh,
that whole theory.
If that black helicopter lands and like yanks him out of his basement and takes him
if they get the old vaudeville hook and off the stage, sir.
Yeah, let's get some black helicopters, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not ready to buy any of the men. I think he's probably going to pick a woman, but I think there is an argument for buying 1 cent shares, maybe on like I don't know, Bernie or Cuomo or someone like that.
Do we want to shift and take some questions about the current presidential administration?
Well, can we celebrate Zoltar's hit from last week first?
Oh yeah. Zoltar, tell us.
Don't forget, I was talking about the location of the DNC convention. in Milwaukee at Fiserv. I think you hopped in on this before me, actually. I was eyeballing it. You said it's a good low purchase. And then last week I said it's an official Zoltar pick. I think it was in the 40s. Yeah. And this week it's up to 65 cents. So those who trust in Zoltar were rewarded.
Wait, I got a question, Zoltar.
Yeah.
Do you think that we should bet on Pratik to be Biden's vice presidential nominee because he has no balls and didn't follow us on this one?
I reject the premise of that question.
Yeah, I did buy in on the convention.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So you think it's going to be at Fiserv?
I don't know. I mean, I sold it off in the 60s. I think it probably will be.
Well, I'm full tilt boogie maxed out on this one, and I got in at like 44 cents. I'm up to about $400 profit right now, but I'm holding no waves on this one. I think it's going to be slow and steady all the way to the convention.
So I sort of
especially as everything else is opening up. You know, movie theaters are starting to open up, restaurants are opening up. The fatality rate for COVID is much lower in all the states except for New York.
So teachable moment. I made this trade when it was at 36. This is when Pratik, I swear, like I'm going to rewind the podcast from weeks ago and hear you tell me that this was a sloppy move. But I bought at 36 and the market just didn't respond for a week or two. It went up to like 46 and I just cashed out. But like, man, you know, sometimes
the reason the market spiked is the DNC guys have started making announcements that their plan officially right now is to go forward with Fiserv and to have a modified convention with social distancing and stuff like that. So once those articles popped, then the price followed. But if you were smart and you're looking at it, you could almost see that those articles were about to start getting dropped.
I mean, to be clear, I mean, I didn't get in when it was in the 30s because things were very uncertain. But by the time it got into the 40s, at that point, you had Republican officials saying pretty clearly that they were going to have a real life convention.
I was the same as Pratik on that one. I was eyeballing it in the 30s. And then once I saw the GOP was saying full steam ahead, we're going to have the convention, no virtual nonsense. That's when I said, okay, let's hop in on this full tilt boogie.
I do think it's interesting that both parties are really like hanging their fortunes on losing sports franchises. Like, you know, launching a presidential campaign in the Milwaukee Bucks arena is, you know, not necessarily what winners do. And down in Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, who was just like the most average coach ever for Auburn, is maybe going to win the Republican primary. I mean, like, it just seems like a lot of losing going on right now.
I like Tuberville. He's going to beat Sessions.
You think?
Sessions are dumb.
I feel like people want something new usually. Just, you know, give me something new.
Plus, he's clapping back at Trump pretty hard on Twitter. I don't think that's going to fare well for him.
That Twitter fight between Tommy Tuberville and Jeff Sessions is like the walk-off in Zoltar.
There's one between Sessions and Trump going on right now.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like the contest on Twitter for Trump's attention is like the walk-off in Zoolander. The two of them just tagging Donald Trump in their rants to try and get his fucking, you know, his bone for them.
It's great.
I feel like I'm watching Zoolander. It's hilarious. We had a question from the Buck Stops Nearby, who sometimes goes as Pirate Juice.
That's a good name.
Right? It displays a sense of humor. Who is going to be the next cabinet member gone? That's pretty direct. I think this connects with the kind of Mike Pompeo scandal and the Mike Pompeo maybe running for Senate, probably not. Does anyone have an itch to scratch on this?
Yeah, I mean, last week, I think we were literally recording at the time that the scandal was unfolding on TV. So I recommended that somewhere around 90 no on Pompeo in that market was a good deal. Now, that dropped after the scandal.
Pompeo to not run for Senate, right?
No, to
not
be the next
one to leave.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's now trading at 13%, so you can buy him not to be dropping out in the high 80s. My view here is basically that it's worth getting in, buying no on him in the high 80s. I think that any kind of possibility of Congress holding the administration to account was basically settled with impeachment. They're just not going to do it. But I do think that I'm going to buy these, but definitely not hold them beyond the election, because I think that if the Democrats take the Senate, at that point, Pompeo may conclude that he doesn't want to go through the scrutiny and investigation, but I think he'll definitely remain through the election.
I like these like.
I just did the trade live. That's how I roll.
Let's do just mainline that gambling.
I just did. I just bought some Pompeo nose. It's at 89
I don't get it though.
now.
Some of these people, like Wilbur Ross, is still hanging around, and he's had House oversight committees up his for a year now over scandals. Just doesn't make any, like, nothing makes sense anymore. It's just,
I avoid those markets in general. Like the plague. I don't like them. You never know who's going to leave when.
Worst.
Yep.
I mean, I think there are a few possibilities on like what determines people leaving. I think one is if they get a promotion, which I think is possible for some of these.
Not for Pompeo, though.
Yeah, not for him. But I do think that at least like one or two of these people are going to just want to leave after the first term. I mean, people always do one term and then move on to other
stressful
things.
Job.
But I think Pompeo wants to be there as long as he can. So I think, I don't see any reason why he won't at least be there.
He's not going to get, like, being a senator after you've been the Secretary of State. He's a very powerful Secretary of State, in my opinion. It's like going to be like a regional sales manager for a vacuum company, after you've got the presidency or the way he does. It's just like, it's a retirement gig at this point.
I mean, I read that McConnell was trying to pitch him on the idea that if he ran for Senate, he could be set up to run for president. And I think that's, not a bad thesis.
He's too fat, though.
Well, look who's the president now.
No, but like Mike Pompeo is like
obese.
No, like Mike Pompeo is literally like Nancy Pelosi's like trolling Trump and calling him morbidly obese. Like Mike Pompeo actually is morbidly obese.
No, I think Trump's got a higher body fat.
He's got hair though.
That's true.
You can't get, like, it's like relationships. Like, you have to be skinny to get a girlfriend. You can get fat once you have one. Like, you have to be skinny to run for a high elected office. You can get fat once you're in.
Yeah.
I actually strongly disagree on that. I think that I think it depends on how charismatic you are and what your overall brand is. Like, I actually think being fat kind of worked to Chris Christie's advantage. It kind of added to his whole persona. And I think if he had run in 2012, I think he could have been the front runner.
Oh yeah, he missed his opportunity big time on that.
But his whole persona was what, like a 1% approval rating and dropping out before. When did he drop out? New Hampshire?
No, 2012, I'm saying.
Yeah, when they're all asking him to do it, he said, "No, I got to run the state of New Jersey." And then his popularity dropped like a hot rock.
I don't know. I don't buy. I mean, like, I'm trying to think. What was the non-photogenic presidential candidate that we've had? Maybe John McCain, but he was still a good-looking old dude. All right, so resolved by Mike Pompeo. No, he's staying in as Secretary of State.
That's right. I just bought some at 88 cents, so the price is 89 cents now.
I would say through October, but sell it off before the elections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess we've got, what do we got going on this? Pratik keeps
what about Flynn?
What about Flynn?
Some Flynn drama.
Some Flynn drama.
Well, hold on. I still got the chart from the last pod. Remember this bad boy?
Yeah.
So Zoltar was right about this. We had the writ, and I was right about this. As soon as the writ happened, price spiked. Week of May 18th. Everyone thought this chart was nonsense. Now you're realizing it's actually legit. And we are at this phase right now. The media shit show phase. And looks like the Court of Appeals is going to hear the writ. And if the writ wins, then that's ball game. I think there's a good chance it won't hit. So then we got the media shit show where you're going to see spikes all over the place. And fucking Judge Sullivan's going to bring in that amicus attorney, and he's already getting ready to call witnesses and file motions and make hearing arguments. It's going to be a complete joke.
I'm already bored hearing words like amicus, but I feel like you're telling me that there's going to be some volatility that we can.
All you need to realize is, like I said in the blog post, is no shares are Thanos. They are inevitable. It's going to be a lot of smoke, mirrors before we get there, but it is going to eventually get there. He's going to get dismissed without charges. Therefore, so no pardon.
Going back into the mailbag. By the way, Zoltar, I followed you on that, and my bank account is thanking you. Going back to the mailbag, we got some questions.
So the price has spiked since then? I haven't been paying attention. It went up like
a couple cents.
What's it up at, like 75, 80?
I don't really remember. Not enough that I was contemplating selling.
You can buy no at 75 right now.
All right.
Yeah.
That's about right.
Okay, I wanna dip my fingers into this mailbag. Our sort of perennial writer and fan, Tuck Leg, asked about
Tuck Leg.
Love Tuck Leg. If you ever call Tuck Leg Cuck Leg, you're not my friend anymore.
Salt of the earth, that man.
It was his birthday this week too.
Young buck, isn't he?
Yeah, young guy. He asked us
Steve King, Rashida Tlaib, Ilan Omar,
if we had sort of opinions about any of these matters. PJ, I think we're planning a whole episode on Steve King, but maybe you could give the teaser right now.
Yeah, we can get into it in more detail, but basically I think definitely by no on King. He's losing control of the race, and even if he does eke out a win in the primary, he's by no means the favorite going into the general election. But we can talk more about that later.
Yeah. As for Rashida Tlaib and Ilan Omar, they have a lot of money. I was just doing I was this morning waking up, although Tlaib's in this interesting situation where she's running against Brenda Jones, who was sort of the pick for the black vote in her district, versus Michigan, Detroit politics between the enormous Muslim population, the black population, and the kind of maybe pseudo racist population. It's like a weird place. I don't really understand it. But she would be my pick for the most vulnerable out of all of those, but I can't put a price on it quite yet. Let us go. Pratik, you wanted to talk about the Libertarian Convention. I thought that was just using a Ouija board to contact Friedrich Hayek and Milton Friedman, but maybe there's something going on there that's worth knowing about.
Yeah, I mean, by the time we publish this episode, I think we'll know who the nominees are. Right now, Joe Jorgensen is the front runner to be the nominee, and Larry Sharp is the front runner to be VP. But I think that, regardless of who ultimately emerges, I think there are a couple points here that are important. I think we basically now know that no one high profile is going to be on the Libertarian ticket. And,
damn you, Ventura.
Yeah, so, I mean, if the Green Party convention turns out to be equally uneventful, I think that we know a couple things. I think one is that third parties are basically not going to be a factor. I think combined they might get maybe 5% total.
That feels generous.
Yeah, so I think that impacts the margin brackets. I also think that it may actually be pertinent to the VP selection. I think it's worth going through an item in the mailbag by Scott Supak. He was talking about the impact of third parties in the 2000 election. And he wrote, Joe Lieberman sure ruined Gore's chances. With a more liberal VP pick, he would have won enough of the Nader votes to overcome the Supreme Court sanctioned cheating. So I'm not sure I agree with that point, but the point is that if people are of the view that a different, more ideological VP pick by Gore would have put him over the top, I think that insofar as that is an argument for Biden going with someone to shore up his left-wing base, I don't think that he really needs to worry about that in terms of a third-party factor this year.
Yeah, I mean, the only way these people running on the Libertarian Party ticket right now are Russian tabletop, what do you call it, ping pong players in Russia. I would only know their names because I can bet on them. They just seem like entirely irrelevant people. And isn't Vermin Supreme a parody candidate? Isn't he basically an Ali G show character who's running for the Libertarian nominee? Am I wrong? Seems stupid.
Yeah, I mean, he's unquestionably the most high-profile figure in the Libertarian Party.
His name is Vermin Supreme?
His name
Yeah.
is Vermin Supreme.
Oh,
He wears a boot on his head.
Oh, that guy. I know that guy. He's a wizard.
I don't know what spells he plans on casting, but I don't think they'll be over voters.
I will say, I mean, I think there's a longer term lesson here for will they run markets also.
Are you going to attack the Keen Dog thesis?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I part of the reason that I sort of predicted that Trump would be the Republican nominee back the last time is because I thought we were actually overdue for a celebrity billionaire type of person to become president. And I thought that once Trump basically proved that you could do that a lot of other people would be interested in getting in the game. And if you want to make a vanity run for the presidency, why wouldn't you basically walk into the Libertarian Convention, get all the benefits of a national party infrastructure and try to get press for the next few months? But no one did it.
Well, because that cuts both ways. Don't forget Trump really wasn't painted as a racist for the last 20 years until he ran for office, and now
I personally think that the business acumen of Mike Bloomberg and Tom Steyer is like forever in doubt, because like, why would they try and spend $500 million buying the Democratic Party's nomination when they could have spent a fraction of that to be, a libertarian or a green or a third party or something? Just seemed like a bad business deal for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think
those
even
guys shit the bed. In retrospect, they went down in flames.
I think Tom Steyer would have been regarded as a serious guy if he ran as a libertarian, and Bloomberg also. They would have been starting with basically no expectations, and for them to get 5%, I think that was doable.
They probably could have pulled a Ross Perot and gotten didn't Ross Perot get like 20 million votes?
He got
he was the favorite to win for a short period of time.
He got 20% of the vote. That's what it was. I don't know who that would have benefited.
Remember, he went nuts. He said like people were trying to ruin his daughter's wedding, and he just went real cuckoo.
You probably have to go cuckoo to run as an independent.
His vice president was not the best debater either.
So Libertarian Convention, I think it's going on right now as we record this. My take is that it's probably like a low production value, extremely long and boring episode of Star Trek. I have no interest in it. I think it has nothing to do with how this election will ultimately resolve.
But one final point here, it may be an argument for thinking the Democratic Convention will happen. I think it goes to show people just aren't going to tune into a internet convention.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like there's like a lot of public health NIMBYism right now, where people numerically by the polls support lockdowns, but you go out on the street, it's pretty clear that most people aren't locking themselves.
Just imagine the optics of Trump in a stadium full of people, rah rah rah. Then you have Biden doing a virtual Zoom meeting. You're not going to have that.
I don't know, but it might kind of accrue to Biden.
You know what it is? That's like the modern day equivalent of Kennedy putting makeup on and what's his name refusing to. Remember that debate? Yeah, I remember Nixon. They said like what lost it for him is he didn't know how to be camera ready. Well, if today's day and age, it's like not realizing how dumb you look on Zoom.
Yeah, but there's like a 30% chance, like Joe Biden's just old, and there's like there's a reasonable chance that when you shake his hand, he's going to be like a zombie corpse. And, it might not be the worst thing that Joe Biden's not out kissing babies right now, because he's lost a step.
Doesn't seem to be gaining momentum as he does more and more of these speaking events.
Yeah. And as more and more bodies pile up and people, hang them on Trump. So it's hard to say who some of these things will benefit at the end of the day, but it's interesting to sit on the armchair and pretend like I know the answers. Let's close with a question from Nihar. About this. He said, aren't formal campaign launches antiquated anyway? It's not like anyone is waiting for a convention to consider the general election campaign active.
I think the convention is still a core part of the democratic process. It's the exciting rah-rah Super Bowl of politics.
PJ?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think you could very well argue that Barack Obama would not have become president in the absence of a Democratic convention,
because of when he was a senator and he stole the spotlight.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that. That's how they get up and comers, pluck them out.
I mean, I understand like all the takes about, headed into like a more digital, more remote world, but that stuff's way out in the future. The public is trained. The convention's where the game begins, and it's where you kind of seed your stars for the next generation. So
Yeah.
I'm on.
And by the way, I still think the convention is a good price. It's at 65 cents. I'd buy it up to 70 at this point. And like I said, it's just going to keep slowly and steadily going up as more and more plans get solidified, reservations get made, doctors start okaying things. It'll just slowly creep up. Probably get to around 80.
I've got an idea for how to say goodbye to our fans tonight.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom. But maybe I'll just do a little hate mail roundup for everyone on this podcast.
It's like soup for the soul, dude.
Right? Armenian Bacon says, Keen Dog, I
boy.
suggest you change your name to K-Dog Minnow of PI. That's kind of funny.
By the way, I've challenged Armenian Bacon to a debate. He's a college professor, and he's afraid to debate a man in a genie hat and a fake beard.
Johnny Boy says, Zoltar sounds like a moron.
Johnny Boy's a big fat jerk. He's on the predicted message boards, and he's hating on us. But as far as I can tell, I think Johnny's a really bad bluffer. I think he actually takes the opposite positions that he argues, because the position he argues is always the losing one, which makes me a little suspicious on his true intentions. So read his post with a cautious eye, because he kind of plays devil's advocate. And I think reverse pumps.
Steve Bittenbender says of Pratik, big eyes and silky smooth skin tell me he's 20, but his wisdom and hair tell me he's 45.
No, that was Slade, not Bittenbender.
Well, that's not hate mail. That's almost a compliment.
Well, the best hate mail it's unclear. Little backhanded compliment.
Yeah, it kind of hits both ends.
And Stephen Fritsch.
Well, what's the answer? How old are you, Pratik?
I think we should make that a fundraiser.
Wow.
All right, blog post.
You know what my guess is? My guess is
100.
37.
I think you're like Treebeard in the Lord of the Rings. You're actually like 1,000 years old and have seen many wars before and are prepared to fight. That's what I think.
I could see him going up as high as 44.
Boys,
John,
we're running out of time here. You want to say goodbye?
Don't eat pot cookies.
PJ's just winking at the camera. Classic minimalist, you goddamn performance art piece. I'm Keen Dog. This is Star Spangled Gamblers. You're awesome. See you next time.
Whoa.